Oh, oh my gosh. I know y'all are like, this girl cannot tell time. Is that what happens when you go um up in a hurricane, you lose track of time? Kind of. Yes, you do uh lose track of time quite a bit, to be honest. So I am exhausted from my experience. As you can see, I am here, I am alive, I am well, I am grateful for the experience. Um, of course, I couldn't record live in the air. I should have known that, but I was just so excited and so thrilled. I did take some video footage and some pictures that I'm still editing and working on pulling together. So stay tuned for that. But I tell you what, I learned a lot. um, the experience was like no experience I have ever had in my entire life, probably like nothing I ever will. And I've birthed two children, mind you, two children, battled cancer, gone through a divorce, and other life storms that I call them, and experiences. But there was nothing like that. I was scared. I think I said that. I I was getting comfortable with the uncomfortability of what I was about to do. And when I tell you that I don't like planes, I'm not a fan of flying. But as I mentioned before, I know that the fastest way to get places and to do things is to fly. So that's how we get around. Places that I can drive to, I gladly, happily drive. I don't mind driving. I love to drive and taking road trips, in fact. But there's some places that I just can't get to by automobile. And in a hurricane is one of those places. On an airplane, not my preferred mode of transportation. So, something to make you laugh. I so don't like flying that I have to tell you about an experience that one of my friends, and she's on Facebook. So if you know her, uh, Pinky Taylor, Pinky Lee Taylor. Anyway, she will tell you we bumped into each other in South Florida. I think it was either Miami International Airport or Fort Lauderdale airport. It was one or the other, but we were both coming from South Florida. Anyway, so we bumped into each other at the airport. We happened to be on the same flight, headed back to DC, and we ended up sitting next to each other. So I had to do a full disclosure moment. I said, "Look, I'm not a fan of flying. I just want you to know in advance that I'm not a fan of flying. So, don't be surprised. I say my prayer. Um, I typically have a book or a magazine. I have my music playing in my ear. I have some takeoff songs that I like to listen to and some landing songs I like to listen to, and a drink. Yes, she said it, and an alcoholic beverage to kind of calm my nerves on the flight. I think I had done everything. Maybe not. And maybe not, because when I ran into Pinky, that was a surprise. So anyway, here we are in the front row seats of the flight. And this, of course, because I had someone sitting next to me that I personally knew, this was a horrible, that experience, that was a horrible commercial flight that I was on. And when I tell you I was gripping onto the seats, we were bouncing up and down, the turbulence that we experienced. And I'm telling you, I was calling on Jesus, I was praying. Pinky was so entertained. Let me tell you, and I'm only saying her name because she will validate for you, so she knows that. So she can let you know I am not exaggerating. I'm probably downplaying, um, To be honest, all that the conniptions that I was going through. And I was like, oh my God. And she started videotaping me because she was like, I do not believe that this woman who is all over the place and she's going here and going there talking about me, you are that scared to fly and you are acting like this. It was quite hilarious after the fact once we got on the ground. But that was a rough commercial flight. An airplane is one of the safest ways to travel. I get it. I understand. I saw the comments. I get it. I get it. I get it. Just psychologically, mentally, the idea and thought of being, in air with nothing above and underneath and all of that anyway, all the stuff that my psyche deals with. So I know. So I'm only sharing this with you in that level of detail and granularity to let you know the full extent of the fact that I voluntarily got on an airplane to drive into a category 4. Yes, a category 4 hurricane. And as I said, as soon as I can get all the pictures and stuff edited and strewn together and video and stuff like that, I will post that. But to voluntarily get on an airplane, not my preferred mode of transportation, getting comfortable with my uncomfortability in order to experience the opportunity of a lifetime. And in the safety briefing, I had given myself a little bit of an out. There were a couple of safety briefings, and I told myself if after the safety briefing I didn't, I was so scared that I just felt like I couldn't go, then I wasn't going to go. But I was in a room of a team of experts, like I said, all of whom uh, do this for a living. They are experts at it, well trained, well educated, the whole 9 yards, skilled, gifted to do this work. And sitting in that safety briefing, I actually got more comfortable with the idea because everybody around that table, for the most part, that I'm aware of, they have families, they're married, they have children, they want to get back home. This is about a mission, a scientific mission, a mission to save lives, to learn more information to help us better predict hurricanes and save more lives and all of that good stuff, which is amazing. So I actually felt more comfortable. And the fear went away and the scared went away a little more, and the my excitement level raised. So then at 4 o'clock, I made the ascent on the ladder into the aircraft, found out where I was sitting, and then I had to have another safety briefing because it was my first flight and first time getting on an aircraft, and it wasn't the typical. Um, and it wasn't the typical safety briefing like you do on a commercial airline. Along the same lines, but a lot of different things because of the size of the aircraft, how it's laid out, all of that stuff. So I got that safety briefing. I had my cooler because I think I mentioned to you I did take the Bonine. It's a type. It's for those who don't know what Bonine is. It's a motion sickness medicine. Dramamine makes me sleepy, but Bonine seems to be a little more gentle for me. So I took the Bonine 2 hours in advance, like it says, about an hour and a half in advance, per the instructions. I ate earlier in the day just in case because I didn't want to get sick. Oh, and so here's the beautiful thing back to about getting sick. So when I was in the safety briefing, I could tell that one of the researchers could see the fear and trepidation on my face, that she so kindly um, pulled me aside after the safety briefing and said, look, even she on one of her earlier flights in a high category number hurricane, she got sick. And so she told me don't feel bad. If I were to get sick, it's okay. It's happened to everybody, just about everybody. So I will be joining a club, a well attended club with many members if I were to get sick and all that kind of stuff. She said it would be fine, and don't be embarrassed, and don't feel like I had to hold it in. So that made me feel better. So back to when I got on the plane and I had my safety briefing. So at the end of the safety briefing, I immediately asked, excuse me, where are the barf bags? and I grabbed me one and put it in my pocket. And here's the best thing. So then some of the individuals on the flight was like, put the barf bag back. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have the barf bag, you will use it, so put it back. But in my mind, like I told you earlier, I take calculated risk. I'm a planner, and I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So I kept it. But I did have in my bag water, ginger ale, a little bit of food, snacks, or whatever. So just in case I did get hungry and I felt comfortable enough to eat, I would at some point. Because my excitement and fear were kind of running neck and neck back and forth, I did not eat when I got on the plane. Everybody else is eating, they're drinking, but then I had to say they're used to this, so this is no big deal to them. So anyway, strap myself in, and we take off for the storm. And of course, the flight is smooth. I'm like, oh, this is not bad. And then it starts getting darker and darker, and then the lights come on, and I could tell from the instrumentation I can read the instrumentation and I could see the storm, the outer rings, and what we had to go through in order to get to the eye of the storm and all that there. So as we were getting pulled into the wall of Hurricane Fiona, Category 4 hurricane, baby, when I tell you it changed, it changed. It was a bumpy ride. It was a bumpy ride. And I had to remind myself, okay, you said, where am I going to go? You signed up for this. This is the experience. Um, but to see that, and again, when I'll post some pictures, because it was getting so dark, it was hard, and it was in the evening time, so it was challenging to see, but I could see part of the eye. Here's the irony: the outer wall of the hurricane, where the challenges and the rumbles and the twists and turns and dips and drops. Okay, because y'all know how I think. All I could think of was line dancing, right? Because dip, baby, dip. I was thinking about that, and I mean they were dips. But in trying to comfort myself and console myself because I like music and I love to dance, all I could think was dip, baby, dip. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Because that's basically what the plane was doing. Dip, dip, this way, that way, so on and so forth. And and then finally, we got into the eye of the storm. And you want to hear something ironic? In the eye of the storm, it's quiet, and it's still, and it's peaceful. I was like, my God, today, if there's not a lesson in that. And I gleaned some things from that, from the entire experience, which I was taking notes and things like that once things settled. And so making two passes in this hurricane, we got out, bumpy ride, coming out and everything. And then we had to go out and check for it, turn around and go back in. And that second pass was worse than the first. You hear me? Baby, I had a whole Hurricane Fiona playlist on my phone, that I had the earphones in along with the headphones on for the aircraft, listening what was, so I could hear what was going on as well. But I had that playlist playing. I turned it up. You want to know what I was listening to? Among other things, the one that was most comforting is I listened to the Hamilton soundtrack. Yes, yes, I did. I listened to the Hamilton soundtrack got me through Hurricane Fiona, Category 4 hurricane, listening to that. So, anyway, we make the second pass. I turn up Alexander Hamilton, and while we doing all this, and I'm going, and it seems like the beat and the rhythm and the percussions of Alexander Hamilton perfectly coincided and accompanied my experience on that aircraft. And once we got through, to hear the pilot say, "Job well done, we're going home." And it was smooth sailing. And I relaxed in my seat finally and went to sleep the rest of the way home. They had to wake me up once we landed. And we safely got in. I think it was a little after 11. I went into my office, grabbed a laptop, and had to make the drive home. But when I tell you it was such a surreal experience, that it was like I was floating that 20, 25 minute ride to get home. I slept like a baby. um, if you've ever cruised, I like cruising, and I like the ebb and flow of a cruise. It's like rocking me to sleep. I love that. I came in here, it was as if I had been on a turbulent cruise in choppy waters, but I came in and slept like a baby. And this morning, when I woke up, my body felt like I had been tossed to and fro, and like I had been in a storm or, hit by a truck. And in essence, I had been. Even in that well built and protected aircraft, the winds, I believe, if I remember correctly, in the wall of the hurricane were more than 125 miles per hour. Yeah, yes. So imagine being strapped in and feeling all that pressure. So, although I intended to go live earlier today, I just didn't have the energy. And I ended up working today and working from home. But I was so exhausted, the idea of going into the building, yeah, no, wasn't happening. But so that's that experience. As I mentioned, I'll get together some pictures and video and post them across all of my platforms, the ones that you're seeing me on now, whichever one it may be, and some lessons learned. And when I called my parents this morning, of course they were excited. I did text them last night to let them know that I made it home safely, but you know how your parents do. You know how your mama does, especially. And so my mom was like, "Is there a book? You're going to write a book about this?" Since I do write books, that's what I do, among other things. And so while I was asleep and when I woke up this morning, it was just like pouring out the lessons of the experience and the hurricane and the things that I learned while I was there in the air. So, and it was just I've got a title. I've got, the points and things like that. So yes, there will be a book. But before then, I'm going to share some of the lessons in a particular format, but I'll talk more about that later. So I survived, I made it, and maybe most importantly, getting comfortable with the uncomfortability, doing it anyway, even though I was afraid, I was scared. No two ways about that. But even in that state, going forward with it and having that experience and walking away from that experience knowing in my heart and in my soul, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do it as often as they allow me to do it. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, but I will do it as often as they allow me to do it. That is how amazing an experience that was. Am I going to jump out of an airplane skydiving? No, ma'am, no, sir. Not going to do it. I've done indoor skydiving several times. I do on my bucket list have to go up in a hot air balloon because, again, I think that's a little more controlled than jumping out of an airplane, a perfectly good one, no less. So there are other things and adventures that I will do. I did since I moved down here to Tampa. There is um, a ranch. I think it's called Circle B. Or I'll find it. But anyway, I keep calling it the wrong name. But there is a ranch, which is a huge. I don't even know how many acres preserve. Not even a preserve. It's just in the middle of nowhere, and they have walking trails that they've managed to carve out, and that's where the gators live. And I did go there. Yes, honey, I did. And there were gators everywhere, and we were walking through their territory, so we could see the paths that they walked. And I don't know, I won't say unfortunately, but I went during mating season in May of this year, and you could tell that it was mating season because they had the calls that they gave each other, all that stuff. But that's a whole different discussion. But again, another amazing adventure to be walking amongst um, gators in their habitat, non-controlled environment. No, there weren't trainers there keeping them away or anything like that. None of that. But anyway, so this was what yes looks like, um, to going into the eye of a storm part three. So again, I ask you, what does your yes look like? What is it that you want to do? That even though people may look at you, give you the side eye, and like, really, seriously, you really want to do that? But you know in your heart and soul that it's something that will bring you tremendous joy and excitement. What is it that you need to say yes to today? What is it that you want to do this weekend, tomorrow? Here, I'm in the United States, it's Thursday evening. What do you want to do Friday to kick off the weekend? Saturday, Sunday? What do you want to do before you go into another work week? Think about it. Don't think too long and do it. Talk to you later. Bye.